Okay. All right. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Yep.
All right. Good evening. I call to order the meeting of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee on Thursday, June 22nd, 2023 at 7:03 p.m. And I invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just want to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on HWCAM. We will begin with any citizens. It doesn't look to me like there are any citizens in the audience that would like to make a comment. Am I correct? Okay. Mr. Tracy, do we have anyone on the Zoom link who looks like they'd like to make a comment? Okay. I will then forego the reading of all the rules about the citizens' comments, and we can go ahead and close the Zoom link at 7:04. All right. Next up, I'm going to ask Amy if she would read a portion of our school committee protocols.
As elected members of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee, we, including the superintendent, accept the high honor and trust that has been placed in us to ensure that the students of the district receive the best education possible. To that end, we hereby commit to the following in the conduct of our business. Number 6, school committee members will attend meetings on time and be well prepared to discuss agenda items. While at meetings, members will stay focused on the agenda items and will not engage in communication outside of the agenda being discussed. When making decisions, school committee members will keep an open mind, utilizing the best information available, including research, best practices, public input, and financial considerations. Members will debate issues and not each other. Members will analyze carefully and debate fully whenever necessary prior to making decisions.
Thank you. Thank you for being willing to read what I think might be the longest one. Okay. All right. Next up is our consent agenda. Does anyone have any items that they would like to hold from the consent agenda? Okay. Francesca, looks like we're ready.
Yeah, a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Second by Julia. All those in favor? That is unanimous of the 5 members who are present, and the motion passes.
I just want to mention, to say thank you to the Ed Fund. Those are some really amazing grants that we received.
Absolutely. And I will double down on that and say, in particular, I was struck by the Ed Fund support of the preschool learners, which I believe, Mr. Tracy, that's likely the largest grant that the Ed Fund has given to preschool, I would imagine.
Yes. That I am aware of, yes.
So, yeah, so that's really exciting, and exciting to see all of our learners getting seen and recognized by the Ed Fund. It's great. Okay. Moving right along. All right, next on new business is our a Taiwan 2024 field trip. Mr. Tracy, are you going to do an introduction?
Invite up one of our Mandarin teachers at the high school, Jing Chi. She will do a presentation for us.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And Brian will answer all the questions.
Okay.
Right. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, if you can move the mic so that we can, yeah, if you can move it up so that, perfect.
All right. Can you hear me
Yes.
clearly?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present the trip to Taiwan during April break in 2024. The trip length will be 9 days. We chose April because in April, Taiwan has its perfect, nice and warm weather on average. The temperature is around 60 to 70 degrees. As we all know, nice weather is always a plus for any trips. So let's get to our point. Why Taiwan? Traveling to Taiwan could possibly one of the longest trip for our student. So safety is our top priority. And the travel advisory level of Taiwan is 1. So this could elaborate on this point. And one more thing, from the perspective of culture, Taiwanese culture is a big fusion of multiple diverse cultures. So it's not hard to imagine that people there, but pretty used to accepting and respecting other cultures as well as the people from other cultures. So here comes our second reason, people there. So you will be impressed with their hospitality and passion in welcome people from other countries, and they're incredibly friendly and helpful. So you never have to worry about getting lost in Taiwan. People will be very happy to help you out. So many travelers said Taiwan is a map-less country, which means you don't need to bring map with you. Any people, local people, could be your GPS. And if you lose anything or drop anything without noticing, good chances are people will chase you down and return your stuff. And if you have any questions, you approach to a local people, they will be very excited to share with you, answer your questions, share with you what are their best food you should try, what are the best places you shouldn't miss there. It's always the people who make the travel experience what it is. And you will feel lucky. You meet Taiwan people there. And talking about the places we're going to visit, Taiwan is a very beautiful island. You can see it from the map. And the most famous places are Sun Moon Lake, Yeliu Geopark, this Shifeng Waterfall, and endless coastal line and tropical beaches with the coral reefs. And the good news is all these places are on our tour itinerary. And if you ask me to compare Taiwan with a place, like a similar place in United States, I would like to say Hawaii. If you have been to Hawaii and you like Hawaii, you are going to like Taiwan. And besides the nice and beautiful natural sceneries, Taiwan has been doing a very good job preserving the Chinese culture, tradition, and history there. One of good example is here, the National Palace Museum. It has a permanent collection of about nearly 700,000 pieces of Chinese artifacts and artwork, most of which moved from the Palace Museum in the Forbidden City in Beijing. So actually, this National Palace Museum shared the roots with the Palace Museum in Beijing. And most of the collections were from the Tang, Song, Ming, Qing dynasties. So it will be a great opportunity for our students to actually learn and see the Chinese history. We will also go to this Formosan, I know the Chinese name better, Aboriginal Culture Village, and we will make teas with the student. Also fly these sky lanterns. So this helps them actually experience the culture and the traditions there. So this is going to benefit our student with their speaking and listening skills. So I'm sure their speaking and listening will improve after this trip. And last but not least, of course, it's food. Food is always the most biggest or important component of any culture. So trust me, hundreds and thousands good Taiwan food will blow your mind away. And the street food is a must try there. Our student, anyone who go there will fall in love with the Chinese food. And one of the Mandarin teachers, Miss Xi, in middle school, she has been there. She told me not only the food there are great, they're very clean, and the vendors there are super nice. She's eating the street food there, and the vendors just waiting for her to finish and trash the things, yeah. So you can see from the picture, there is very clean, very, very clean. So, and next I'm going to talk about how this trip is connected to our curriculum. In our class, we have learned how to order food in restaurant, how to book hotels, how to ask directions if you get lost, and all about architectures, landmarks, histories there. So I believe this great immersive traveling experience will bring whatever we learn in class, in the book, to real life. So I think our student will really enjoy this trip. This one is next is our tour itinerary. I put some links over there, but they are actually very easy to find. These places are very famous. So if you put name in Google Translate, you can find all those places with the pictures. I attached some pictures over there. If you have any questions about those places, you can ask me or find in the Google Translate. And about details, the price is approximately $4,700, including the flight ticket, local surface transportation, accommodations, all the tickets, meals, and the services of professional tour managers. So the meals will include breakfast, lunch, dinner, daily. Accommodations, we will choose upgraded hotels. All of them are 4-star hotels according to European standards. And the student to faculty ratio is 6:1. And we are aiming for 18 students. This is our first trip, so we want to aiming for 18 students, 3 faculty chaperones. Now we know 2 of the chaperones will be me, Jing Che, and the other Mandarin teacher in high school, and 1 more lucky teacher. And this travel opens to 11th and 12th grade student enrolled in our high school Mandarin classes. Yeah, and this is optional. Travel insurance is optional, but things could happen. So that's for parents to choose. And I also linked some of the reasons and videos why you should travel to Taiwan for more information. 谢谢. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, questions? Julia.
Will there be scholarships available, or how can we help offset the costs for a student that couldn't afford the full ride? Is there going to be fundraising?
Yes. For now, I don't know we have any scholarship available for this, but we have talked with other Spanish teacher whether we can have a fundraiser program for our student to raise. Yeah, we're talking about maybe some website they can raise fund, or we can write a letter to offer student ideas how to raise fund from their relatives or their, yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
This is their first trip, so they're
Right.
also not aware that we help out on the backside.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things, if a child, as we've said before, if a child and their family is having trouble, then we try as hard as we can to make sure to help meet those needs so the kids can go. And this is
Exactly.
a
I just want to see how we
once in a
can help.
lifetime experience.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Wow, looks incredible.
Other questions? I had a question. So I know that it's a year from now, so I know, but it seems like there's a difference between, is it on the form that looked like the cost was about $4,400 and on your presentation it was about $4,700? Is that?
Yes, when we first contact the agency, we choose the lower price one, but we know, after we know the hotel is 2 to 3 stars, and after I talked with Ms. Manigoni, we prefer we should be like upgraded to 4 stars. It's more convenient because the hotel will be only 20 minutes away from the sceneries, so gonna save time and yeah, more space, more private bathrooms. So that's why we had a $279 increase per person.
Okay. And you said 11th and 12th graders?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And do you anticipate that you're going to have at least 18 people that want to go, or do you anticipate having more people that want to go than?
Hopefully we have, because many students show their interest in this trip. If we don't, we will open this to 10th graders until we reach 18.
Great.
Or school committee members?
Oh, of course.
It did look like a nice trip.
It looks amazing.
Okay, and when do you, I mean, maybe this is a question for Mr. Menegoni, when do you expect that you would put this out to the students? Like, when do they make the commitment about going?
We would, pending your decision on this, we would reach out to families now.
Okay. Yeah. What, do we know how long the flight is?
We don't know the flight information yet, but I just checked. It's pretty long, 16 hours.
Oh, that's nothing.
Julie just went to Australia, so she's,
Hours.
I did Hong Kong, I was 15, so.
okay.
It is long, but.
All right, do you have other questions? David, do you have a question? Can you grab a mic so that, yeah.
Sorry, just an aside, really. I went to Taiwan in the late 70s.
Wow.
And really enjoyed it. Quite beautiful, and you're right. The food is outstanding.
Oh, thank you.
Certainly a lot better than Boston Asian food too. But I wondered whether things had changed there, in that there was a lot of air pollution, very visible air pollution at that time.
Oh, when did you go there?
This would be in the late 1970s. So I'm just curious whether, not that that would stop you going, but just curious whether
there's
still
quality there.
Yeah.
It's better now. Yeah. I think because I have a lot of friends there, and I have students visit Taiwan just last year. He shared with me, food is good. No one mentioned about air pollution, I have to say that. So I don't think that's a concern right now, but I can check about the air pollution.
Not a problem.
Quality
Anyway,
there.
I'm sure it'll be a wonderful trip.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Francesca?
The motion, yes. I motion to authorize the trip to Taiwan in 2024 as presented by Mrs. Jean Shi.
Second.
Second by Julia. Is there any further discussion? I guess I think we've said this before, Mr. Tracy. I definitely do want, I know Julia brought it up, but we do want to make sure that if, to always keep our eye on if there are students that this could, because it really could be the trip of a lifetime, and we want that to be offered if there are students that couldn't afford it.
The nice thing with the foreign language department is they do share things. So one of the advantages we have of the Spanish teachers traveling so much and doing fundraisers, they can help out too with that too. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody else? No. All right. We ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor? And that is unanimous of the 5 members present, and the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I,
Yep. Mr. Tracy?
sorry, I just want to say one thing while Jing's still here. If you're not on Twitter, you might have missed this story, but many years ago when we started our Mandarin program, Jing was she's the first high school teacher to come on board and has really worked extremely hard, initially on her own, and then with Shi Chen at the middle school, and now is Shui Mei Li she crosses over both, and between the 3 of them, they've built a nice, robust program. We are very fortunate to have 3 high-quality Mandarin teachers in the building. But a funny story was some of our kids went to Boston, to Chinatown, and they were in Boston, and Jing's dad called her up and said, I was just in Chinatown, and I saw all these kids these American kids speaking fluent Chinese. It was amazing. And she said, Dad, those are my kids. And I think it was a cute story, but I think it's also important to note that, we also had, we had 5 kids who met the proficiency exam, passed the 5 students. Yeah, passed the proficiency.
bilingual.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is, it's a huge,
Very difficult language.
Mandarin is a very difficult language, so that's very impressive. So thank you, and the other 2 Mandarin teachers who aren't here, but we appreciate the work. We also have an AP course coming, I heard.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
I'm actually getting trained these 4 days about AP courses.
Wonderful.
So,
One more thing, we have 2 more students getting seal already.
excellent.
Nice.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I loved that story. That was fantastic.
fun.
And thank you for your work. Wonderful. All right, well, we look forward to hearing about the trip as it approaches. All right, thank you. Okay, next up, is this you, or is this Mr. Menegoni? Is this you?
This is Brian.
Okay.
Just switching.
Yep. Brian, when you are ready, we will hear about the Student Activity Fund transfer. I'll grab a water. Excuse me.
You want to project that, or you want me to? Could you do that? Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. First thing that I'm presenting is a request to transfer some funds between student activity accounts. As outlined in the memo, we'd like to move the concession stand equipment money, that account hasn't been used for a long time. Ski club money, which ski club does not exist anymore. We also have a non-specific account. We would actually close those, and then those funds would be equally distributed amongst all the accounts. And then there are a few other transfers we'd like to make. Student government, which doesn't really exist as a separate entity anymore at the high school. It used to. It was almost like a separate governing body. Now the student government is composed of the 4 class presidents and an advisor who oversees them, and the class presidents meet every other week to take care of their business. So we would take the student government funds and actually distribute those equally to each of the classes that will be in the high school next year, since student government is composed of each one of those classes. The next transfer that we're requesting are the Interact funds. Interact was a community service club that was attached to the Rotary Club in town, which no longer is functioning as far as I know. And Interact hasn't met for a number of years. However, we do have a club called HW Gives Back, which handles all of our community service initiatives. So we'd like to take the funds from Interact and just transfer them to the HW Gives Back account. We used to have a recycling club, and we don't anymore, and there's some money in there, so we would like to transfer that to the environmental club, who has actually taken on a lot of what the recycling club used to do. to boost the activities available to the Environmental Club. For whatever reason, we had a Six Flags field trip account, which was specific to the band and chorus trip that went there for a number of years. However, one thing we're trying to do is consolidate the accounts that we have, and because band and chorus fall under the Fine Arts Department, we're requesting to move those funds to the Fine Arts field trip account, because Fine Arts does go on a number of other field trips as well. So we think that's an appropriate place for those funds. And then finally, there was an account used for the trip to Peru. However, Foreign Language Department goes on a number of trips, as you heard about tonight. So rather than have separate funds for each trip, we would just request that we have one for foreign language field trips, and that those funds can be used for students who are going to Taiwan, Puerto Rico, Peru, Spain, wherever it may be. A lot of times, those funds are used to help pay for the buses to and from the airport, things like that, not for the actual trip itself. So those are all the student activity fund transfer requests that I have.
Okay. Thank you for that. Questions? All right, well, I have a question. Always. I just wanted, and maybe this is just because my tenure here is, very little of it has been during normal times. So this feels unfamiliar to me. Like, I know we've transferred money before, but it seems, this looks to me like you're maybe kind of spent some time cleaning house and making sure that, or is this a normal?
It's a little bit of both, I would say. Trying to consolidate it, but also trying to make that a regular practice, just to clean things up, to make sure we have a proper accounting of all of our funds, and to just, it makes things clearer and easier, I think, for us at the school level, if things are more organized. Because if you've got 8 million different accounts, and where do we put the money, and why is it there, and where did it come from, and what is it meant for, it's easier to answer those questions, really, with fewer accounts in place.
No, I mean, you actually outlined it quite clearly, and I just feel, and other people can speak up whether I'm wrong. I feel like, yes, we've transferred some funds before, but this really felt like you were really doing some work to
I've been
clean everything up, so.
Been working with Vinny probably over the course of the entire year to look at these things carefully and just shrink them down to what's more manageable and makes sense.
And technically, most student activity accounts should be spent. The idea is they raise the money they need for that year, and the only ones that don't do that are the class accounts, like class of 2024, because they're building funds towards their senior year. Yeah. So it's really best practice to try to get your groups to spend down their accounts. So a lot of these have been open and not active, so I think between Vinny and Brian, they determined these are the best places to put it so that the money can be distributed, used, instead of just sitting there unused.
Yeah, and what I learned was kind of interesting is that a year timeline is different for different activities. For example, DECA, their account will get a pretty significant amount of funds by the end of the year because they started fundraising right away for the following year. So their calendar year isn't necessarily the same as a school year calendar. So that was just something interesting that I picked up on. But generally speaking, each account should be spent down as low as possible, with the exception of the class accounts that exist.
Okay. All right. Francesca, maybe we can have a motion. There's still an opportunity for discussion if we want.
Yes, of course. I could. So I motion to authorize the high school student activity fund transfers are requested by Mr. Menegoni.
Second.
Second by Julia. Is there further discussion or further questions? Okay. Looks like we're ready to vote. All those in favor? And that is unanimous of the 5 members present, and the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Menegoni.
Okay, thank you.
I think you're going to just stay right there, I think.
I am.
I think you're up next.
Because my favorite annual task is talking about the student handbook. Every year, because we are a high school, we're required to review the handbook, have the changes approved by the school council, and then bring it to the school committee for final approval. And what we've presented to you, hopefully it makes sense. Jeff Becker prepared a summary document that outlines the changes, and he also provided a track changes document that was linked in that summary, so that way you can quickly go through the student handbook and see in red what the changes are in place in the actual handbook itself. There are only, I think, let's see here, maybe 7 changes, and they're not, you know, huge, but I certainly wanted to just review them quickly. The first one has to do with students carrying medication on field trips, you know, because they are high school age, a lot of kids can manage their own medications, but there is a paper trail that we need to put in place, and there has to be a conversation between the nurse and the student to make sure that everybody understands what has to happen as far as medication. That's the first change that we're proposing. Second one has to do with the honor roll. Previously, in the student handbook, it said students have to be enrolled in 7 courses at all time to be considered for the honor roll at the end of each quarter. But we have kids who don't always take 7 classes. There may be kids on IEPs or 504s who have a reduced schedule. We may have kids doing school and work type experiences, kids doing internships, kids doing dual enrollments, and that would impact the number of classes that they can actually take. But I don't think it should influence whether or not they appear on the honor roll. We've made a point this year of actually publicizing the honor roll outside of school. We send it home to the parents, but also we post it in school. I think it's important for kids to see that it's important that we recognize when students do well in the classroom. With that in mind, we want to make sure that we give everybody the opportunity to receive that recognition. So that's the honor roll. Class dues, which we were here a few meetings ago to get approved. Jeff Becker did add language in the student handbook about it, in case somebody was not aware of it. You know, we will have to inform parents about it at the beginning of the school year. I've spoken with Vinny. We figured out a mechanism to collect the money, but really it just talks about the fact that class dues will be collected every year. It's $50 a year. Hopefully we get it paid by the end of September, so that way each class advisor can take care of their accounting and know what they have for the year. We do ask families to contact the class advisor if there's a financial hardship in place, so that way we can handle that discreetly. But at the end of the day, you know, class dues are an obligation, and like any other thing that happens in school, if at some point, which really is at the end of the senior year, if those obligations are not resolved, you know, we withhold students from senior activities until those obligations are resolved.
Can I ask a question
Yes.
on that? So what, I mean, they're class-sponsored activities. All of those activities would be voluntary and optional for the students? Like what?
Well, so I'm really talking about the senior activities at the end of the year, so graduation, prom, candlelight, senior farewell, all those kinds of things. If kids don't bring their library books back, they don't return textbooks, they don't pay for things that are missing, they're withheld from those events. So it's just in line with what we already do. Next handbook change has to do with the change in the discipline law that recently took place last year in the middle of the school year, where we just talk about some of the remedies that we're supposed to put in place before excluding kids from school, one of which includes restorative practices and mediation. So Mr. Becker just wanted to make sure that that was clear in the handbook. And then a very timely one around academic integrity. This is another change. You know, we've always had things about plagiarism, cheating, copying, all that kind of stuff, but now our friend artificial intelligence has shown up to the party and has caused a bit of a ruckus. So we're making it clear that using AI, I guess in an underhanded manner, for lack of a better term, you know, would be considered plagiarism. you know, as an aside, we're also doing some professional development over the summer to learn how this can actually be used as a tool in the classroom for creative purposes. So we do have some teachers who will be learning about that this summer, but also presenting to their colleagues during the professional development days. So while I'm not terribly excited about this handbook change, I am excited to see what the teachers come up with, you know, for ideas about how this could actually be used in the classroom. And then the last two items have to do with the library. Talking about, first of all, accessing the library during lunch. We're going to be clipping that. The reason is, well, if you just come to the high school someday, if you really want to at lunchtime, okay? And you watch the kids, they're done eating in about 35 seconds, and then they can't sit still after that. And so usually what you'll see is a horde of 9th grade boys walk to the library, and I just kind of close my eyes. I'm like, what are they going to do in there? And they're generally harmless when they're in there. However, we have classes in there. Middle school kids use the space, and all of a sudden, if it gets invaded by 80 high school kids, it's just, it kind of can be romper room a little bit in there. So we're going to be, you know, limiting kids' access to the library. We'll put a process in place where if kids do need to actually go there to do something productive, but it's, you know, it's not a hangout space anymore during lunchtime. And finally, we need to keep food out of the library. I know it seems like a trite point, but the place, because it is so big and it can hold so many students, you know, just kind of makes a mess in there. We're also thinking about food allergies because it is shared by a lot of people. Older kids can generally manage food allergies, but you know, younger middle school kids who also are in that space, you know, they still might not know what to do in those situations. So we wanted to make sure that, you know, food's not brought into the library because then somebody winds up picking it up. Everybody makes a mess, and unfortunately, not as many people want to pick it up. So we need to make sure that that space stays clean. And those are the handbook changes that we have for the coming year. Nothing earth-shattering there, but stuff that we want to make sure we put before the school committee.
Okay, Francesca.
Yeah, just, well, first, thank you for that table, because it made it very easy for me, at
Very
least,
helpful.
to kind of go through the changes and understand the rationale for them. And then also, just as a procedure, is it like a yearly kind of thing? It's kind of, we typically do at the
Yes.
end of year to kind of update?
Yes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yep. And I think we always do it at this meeting at the very
Yep,
end of the
track
year
it, yeah.
for next year.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Thank you, Dina. All right.
And I agree, this table was very helpful, very clear and very helpful, especially in a document that's quite long. It was helpful to have that. Other questions?
I have a question.
Yep.
Or just sort of a, I guess, question. I'm happy that you shared that there's going to be discussion around AI and as far as what to do, because we're struggling with that in higher ed too, so I'd love to hear what you come up with. I'm wondering, what is the rationale behind not using that exact phrase in the handbook, artificial intelligence? Or maybe I'm missing it. I think we say internet resource, electronic resource, and I just wonder if we need to be more upfront and clear about exactly what we mean, unless I'm missing it.
Well, AI could technically be a Google search.
Right. Well, I think that what you're reading is that's the current language, correct?
Yeah, so the
it
the
doesn't-
track changes one is, if you go to the document,
That was
where is it?
that was
Yeah, the
actually going to be
table.
my next.
Yeah.
My question is, I don't think we really have the track changes, or at
So
least
it's-
I couldn't find it. on
It's
that
linked
one.
at the top of the, that summary document.
Over the table on the right.
Yeah, I noticed that today as well. So it's, you have to go to the summary document, so it's there you go. If you keep going to the top, there you go, there's the track changes one. So if you go to page 25, there is a mention about AI in there. I don't know if the word artificial intelligence is explicitly used.
It's at the top of,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was just scrolling down, but I wasn't getting to the right. Oh, I see. Okay. So is everybody else already there?
yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Advantage of it's printed out.
Oh, you have it printed
Yeah.
out. Okay, I just didn't know if there was like a reason behind
We can put the word, instead of AI, we can just write artificial intelligence if it's probably a better idea. It's an easy change.
I only think that that's a problem because
Still don't
artificial
see it.
intelligence is literally like Google. Like the Google algorithm is artificial intelligence. So like, is it wrong to Google something?
No.
I mean, I know it's wrong to cut and paste and to pass something off on your own that you haven't cited, but I don't think it's wrong to use AI in research.
Yeah, but when what the end of the research would be finding an article via Google and citing the article. But if you're using like artificial intelligence, like if you just Google something and then copy like that paragraph that comes up, that's not okay.
Right.
So I'd say that's the AI that's a problem, but like getting to the article via Google is not AI. You're citing an article.
I see what you're saying. I don't know. I feel like Grammarly, like there's all sorts of AI tools you can use to write that
Yeah.
are not going to give you ideas and write the thing for you, but it will enhance it or help you.
You really
Maybe
try-
like what if you use Google Translate? I mean, you shouldn't be doing that either. But I don't know. I'm trying to think because saying artificial intelligence, I think, is just such a
it's very
broad term.
Yeah, so
but
the-
I agree. There's no precedent
Well,
right now,
and
right?
I actually think Francesca asked a really, really important question at the beginning, which was, do we do this every year? Because
Yeah.
this is really new, and I think it's highly likely that this is something that next year they're gonna come back with some refined
different.
language.
I would
year
love
after
to
year.
know from the MASC if there is language around this for other handbooks.
Are you really trying to net ChatGPT because it's much more complete?
Yeah, so-
Yeah.
authoring
No, I'm in
environment?
complete agreement with you. I just don't want to box ourselves into something. I don't know.
I think
it's
that the
narrow
language that's in the-
category, but
oops.
It's much more potent and much more vulnerable to being used to truly
Yeah.
not even plagiarize, to have somebody else do the work.
Yeah, exactly.
What's
Exactly.
interesting is there are now AI programs that are set up, and I was fiddling around with one the other day. They will literally, if you give it some terms, it'll build a presentation for you in PowerPoint, the entire thing, including adding videos and putting in anything you need, it'll put in for you and
Yeah.
let you, then you can tweak it after. So the problem we run into in school is we're always chasing the technology as they expand, and I think the commitment that we've made is we have a couple of staff members that are really, really interested in this, that are going to be working together to do some professional development with our teachers over the summer, and then probably into the school year. It sounds like they want to continue it into the fall. High school staff is very much into it. They've been having conversations throughout the year. I've watched different emails volley back and forth about, hey, check this out, this is new, watch out for this. And I think right now, it's like, we're kind of caught in the middle. Is it something that we try to embrace and help kids to learn to appropriately use for research? Or do we ban it? Or, all those different avenues that
I think you
will
have to
come up.
give it. I think you have to incorporate it, but with attribution.
Yeah.
Like I had it write 3 different versions on the same. Gave it the essential facts and said write it, as if it was a presentation to Congress. Write it more aggressively. Write it with humor, and it was absolutely amazing. If you
Fascinating.
Yeah, no, it is.
present that as an exercise and give attribution,
Yep.
I think that's really good exploratory learning. If it was presented as my own work,
Yeah, right,
it would
then it
be a
probably.
complete.
Yeah, right.
You're right. I think that's what Amy's talking about.
Yeah, that's what I
See what
mean. So
happens with
I think AI is an amazing tool, and I agree, like, as educators, we need to understand how to let students use these tools, because they're happening. I know, we're gonna be in the, thank you, AI. I'm just wondering if it's like something that we need to address right in here in some way where, we're talking about citations or just blatantly saying, taking something written by AI or something like ChatGPT and presenting it as one's own work is not allowed. And I think that would cover not worrying about all the other AI that we already use, like Photoshop or Google or
Right.
all that other stuff.
Treat it just like another author with attribution.
But again, as things evolve, in other words, you know, I don't know, but I mean, in other words, there might have been a time when you were probably supposed to tell your teacher if you used spell check to write your paper.
Yeah.
And now that's sort of assumed that you would have used spell check to write your paper. And, you know, so, Brian, I'm actually having a real, maybe other people are finding, I can't find the redlined version. I'm sorry, but, so I'm not quite clear on whether there is.
It's in the, so if you click on the link, that's,
Yeah, I tried that.
Yeah, it's not red line.
I just don't see any red lines.
I don't see any red line. I get
You
to a
don't?
version. So I guess my only question is, I see, I'm looking at the table under the AI, but is there any language proposed?
yes, so I
And
can read it to
don't see
you.
it, yeah.
So, I mean, it's in the bullet point where it says, claiming ideas from a book, article, or electronic resource, including AI language generators as your own, or including these ideas in your work without proper citation. That would be an example of plagiarism.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah.
didn't see that.
Yeah, I mean, they're using AI language generators, so that
That's
kind of
good.
like.
Yeah, they were pretty
specifies
specific
right?
about it.
It's not just
I don't,
I don't
general
see
AI.
that either.
I don't,
Yeah.
s- I'm,
No, he just read it to you because we
Yeah.
don't have the red
oh,
line
oh,
version.
oh, okay, okay, good. Oh, no, I thought you were saying, I thought you were.
No, he read it
okay,
out loud.
That's fine, that's fine.
I think that covers
Yeah.
everything we're
Right.
talking about.
Yeah, and again, I would fully anticipate that
Next year
next
will
year
change. Yeah.
we'll
Yep.
likely have
Something else,
We'll learn
probably.
something this
Yeah.
year.
Have like an AI class.
Right.
in high
It sounds
school.
like there's going to be a lot of discussions.
Yeah, okay, that
Yeah.
sounds,
Yeah.
I mean, so obviously we've dealt with this on the ground in the high school. I mean, that's not surprising at all. I mean, we put out a message probably later in the year than we should have, where I just kind of told the kids, I'm like, you know what, for right now, I'd like you to stay away from using this for school purposes, because we're trying to figure out how it can be used as a tool, because certainly we have the responsibility to teach them that. But right now, it's just seems like very primitive in its use. It's like, uh-oh, I got an assignment due tomorrow. ChatGPT is now my best friend. Like, that's kind of how it's been. But we know it can be a whole lot more than that. So, but we got to take time learning how to help the kids learn about it, I guess, and ourselves.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you all are working on that, looking forward at it.
Yeah, it's changing.
yeah.
It's changing quite rapidly.
Yeah.
Thank you for, and thank you for being patient and reading that, because I was, all right, are there other questions on other items on this? I asked it already once, and I just want to make sure I really fully understand about the class dues. So if a student, and we voted on this, and I voted for it, but I just want to make sure I fully understand. So if a student and their family does not take advantage of the financial hardship costs, and they don't pay the dues, that really, this final line here really only comes into play at the end of senior year. It's not
Correct.
each
Correct, yes.
year.
Yep, at the end of senior year. That's really when all this stuff catches up to the kids.
Does this happen frequently?
Every year.
Yeah.
We
Well, I
have-
know,
We have
but-
kids we're chasing down, like, you
Well-
gotta do this, you can't come to rehearsal, you don't get your cap and gown.
I
Go
know.
take care of it. Oh, okay, it would've been easier if you did that earlier.
Right, yeah, library books,
Yeah,
books, yeah.
Yeah, I
music,
feel bad.
library
I feel so
books,
bad about it, though.
instruments, there's athletic uniforms, there's all these different things that kids use throughout the year that we pay for or that we end up having to replace, so we end up chasing it. I mean, and the best mechanism is, we have your cap and gown, but in order to claim it, you gotta make sure all of your things are taken care of.
I guess I not want to interpret in Julia's look on her face, but I'm wondering if
feel
her
bad.
I guess that my
Having
and
chased
again
down
my just
my
concern
child for
is that
things.
to me there's a big difference between like not being able to participate in, let's say, prom versus
Graduation.
graduation. Like
Yeah.
I as someone who, my son's a full-on grown-up, so I can share this now. Had a full-out battle with my son over a library book that he claimed he never took out, and I was like, "You are going to pay for this library book because, we're going to have this graduation." I guess. So I have two questions. One is, so it's a $50. So would a student who hadn't paid this at all owe $200?
They could put themselves in that position, but I
Okay.
would like to think that, as part of just sort of internal processes that we'd put in place, we'd have an end of year, like, hey, just so you know, you didn't do this yet, and it's
Right.
gonna show up again
It would
next
already
year.
be flagged.
Yes, yeah.
And I guess my concern is not so much with the, like, I mean, that was like my story about my son and the library book. Like, I really felt like that was, that was on him, right? I guess my concern is like, if we have and I guess this is just an internal thing, but if we, in other words, if it really is a family situation where the family isn't getting their act together to do
Right.
this, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's the benefit of being a small high school.
Yeah.
If we had 3,000 kids, it would be more difficult, but having 125 kids in each class makes it very, very manageable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a really simple answer, but I'm pretty confident that we're on top of this kind of stuff.
I actually feel confident about that too. I'm
Yeah.
just wanting to, you always look at the language just
Yeah.
to make sure, and this is new, the class dues are new, so.
Yeah. So like make sure it's specified that there's a sentence that says, and I think it seems like there is a sentence addressing that.
Yes,
So-
yes, there is language in there about,
Okay.
going to see us in the main office if or your class advisor actually was the first person you would go see if you're having any sort of financial hardship.
So I agree. It's important that
Yeah.
it's spelled out. Yeah.
No, I think it's okay,
I think we need to see how it goes this year. This is the first year we voted on this.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm super uncomfortable with it, but I know that it was voted on, and I want to respect that. But I don't necessarily have a solution. So all I can say is it makes me uncomfortable, but I just don't think anyone should be denied graduation. I don't think so. I totally get it too. But
You-
I don't
you
know.
would've
I
been-
don't necessarily
you
have a
would've been
solution.
to the
I
library
definitely
book.
would have been. I lost all my library books and probably lost my cap and gown and,
The reality is, we're all human
Right.
beings and we get it.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna miss graduation.
yes, yes. Okay.
We've been through the dance, I don't know, many, many times, in many, many ways, and had to.
It'll all, yeah, it will work out.
Community service activities to help kids to.
Well,
make up
I would
different
like to see, yeah, I just think we need to see how it works and then see what happens and then see and get feedback from the community and parents and students and things like that.
And I agree, and I think it's good to have this language here so that you have something to, that parents will, and guardians will see, like, it's written here, and you've seen this
Yeah.
language. Because I assume they still have to sign that they've read the,
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that they've
So,
read the book, yeah.
yeah. Okay. Other people? Okay.
Okay, motion to approve the proposed changes to the student handbook as presented by Mr. Menegoni.
Second.
Second by Amy. Is there further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? And that is unanimous of the 5 members present, and the motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Ron.
So Eric, is this the handbook we were waiting for the wellness?
No,
This is different.
totally different committee, yeah.
Got it.
This is just the student handbook for the high school.
Okay.
Wellness is district-wide.
We still don't have that.
Yeah, we're waiting for our new food service director to come on board.
Okay, next up is the naloxone training recommendation. Mr. Tracy.
So in a conversation with our lead nurse, Leah Tabankin, she has been working with all of the nurses and trying to really get their ducks in a row and make sure that we have proper access to the things that we need in any medical emergency. And I know you may have heard during the year, they were doing different drills and different activities to try to time their responses, clean up any issues, put together go boxes that make sense in different scenarios. So part of this is having people with the ability to understand how these available medications, like I'll use the best example as an EpiPen. We do an annual training for all of our staff on how to use an EpiPen, even though they don't have one. I mean, some of our kids at the high school level, they carry them, many at the middle school as well, but we train everybody to make sure they can use it in case the child is unable to use it. So this is in a similar vein. We have nasal naloxone or Narcan in our nurses' offices. And although it is not something that happens in our schools, you never know, especially where, you know, kids can, with the potency of fentanyl and some of these other drugs that are out there now, you don't need to take it. You just need to be near it. So sometimes it's just a crossover contamination. Could be before school, could be on a bus, you never know. So this gives our nurses the ability, as outlined in the law, to train our non-medical staff on how to use nasal naloxone, which is, again, called Narcan, and it requires school committee approval to do that, and then it goes back into the nurses' hands. At the beginning of every school year, they do a training with our staff to cover all kinds of other things like seizures, allergies, diabetics, how to respond to all these things. So we would add that into the training that we do at the beginning of the year. And then it just gives us a wider expanse of people that can respond in an emergency for whatever reason. It could be something where it's so severe the nurse is tied up doing something and needs somebody else to administer the Narcan. So this is just to give our nurses permission to train non-medical staff, and it's outlined similarly in the law. We just need to vote it as a committee.
And I'm just thinking about the motion. You're looking for us to approve training for administration of, that's what you're looking for?
Approve our nurses to train non-medical staff in the
okay.
administration of nasal naloxone.
Okay.
Basically the first line of the.
Okay. You know what, if you're okay, why don't we make a motion, then we can have any discussion. Go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. So I motion to approve the proposed training recommendation as pertain to adding training to the use of nasal naloxone as presented by Mr. Tracy.
Second.
I phrase it a little
Non-medical
complicated.
staff.
To non-medical staff, right, the training. Okay, let me redo this. Okay. I motion to approve the proposed training recommendations to non-medical staff as pertains to the use of nasal naloxone as presented by Mr. Tracy.
Second.
Second by Julia. All right, does anyone have any questions?
No, it seems like it.
Is there discussion?
Yeah.
The only point of discussion I have is, I'm guessing we would need to update, if we vote yes, update the policy to reflect no?
Already in the policy. ALCD.
Yeah, it just says the school committee shall vote to approve, and the superintendent shall ensure that medical personnel have a written protocol. So I just don't know if our policy needs to say non-medical staff will be trained and able to administer.
Well, I'm not sure, and I don't know what you think, but I sort of thought maybe it would be that we would need to vote on this annually. Is that, or is it once we vote on it?
Or
No, once you
Part of the policy.
once you
only if
vote
there's
on
a change.
it, you're all set.
Okay.
And the procedural piece might be the piece that's missing in this, and that's the conversation I had with Leah. Like, once it was approved here, we need to come up with a process and a procedure. So that would be the 5 nurses working together to
Got it.
determine that. I think that's the piece that's missing.
Okay.
The procedural piece, like, okay, what happens? How do they get it? Where is it? What?
Right.
So those types of things.
How is it administered? Is it orally or?
It's a nasal spray.
Spray.
Oh, it's a nasal spray.
Nasal spray, yeah.
Right, we ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor? That is unanimous of the 5 members present, and the motion passes.
Okay, the next item. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I jumped right over you.
It's okay. It's you.
The next item is as you probably know, we started a couple months ago, really starting to take a look at our goals in conjunction with closing out the 22-23 school year goals and the report that we looked at last meeting, and moving towards the next school year, keeping in mind that this is our first draft. I asked committee members to chime in on our strategic initiatives and strategic objectives as they related to our goal building for next year. Leadership team did the same exercise. We basically brought it together and came up with some symmetries or similarities, if you will, that were related to goal development. What I wanted to do tonight is just get a little bit of insight from the committee related to these. I want to be clear, like I think the first 2 goals on here should remain as goals, but the others don't all necessarily have to be a district goal. And I'll give you an example. One of the conversations we're having at the leadership team level is when you're looking at the DEIB goal, the DEIB goal rests here, and it's this big kind of overarching goal. We need integration now. We need to be able to integrate that deeper into the things that we do at the school levels. So it's really, okay, we've done trainings, we've done, you know, some different book groups, we've done some book studies. Now, what does that look like within our building? So we're talking about the idea of kind of taking that, maybe, we're not there yet, that's why I want to get some feedback here, taking that from the district level and adding it into school improvement planning goals so that it's integrated a little more deeply. And we're talking about it from the perspective of even training. Like the PDC committee is working with the DEIB committee to try to figure out like next directions with training, next steps, and some of the things that we're looking at is even trying to figure out how to integrate it into faculty meetings. So if you have a faculty meeting a month, is there one thing you can do each faculty meeting with your group? Or is there something you can do with your building leadership team? So we want to get it, push it down through. So, you know, that's just one piece of it. I think the MTSS goal, the first one, is something that we've all committed to. I think we keep it as a district goal. District communication plan gives me the opportunity to extend now the portrait of graduate, the strategic planning into this now communication plan, which includes how we really push out the message. What's our new vision? What's our new mission? What are our core values? And then how do we now use that as part of our looking forward, like our growth development over time? And I think that the communication plan is an important piece of that, but it also brings the other schools, the other administrators all kind of on the same plane, if you will. One of the feedbacks we got at the end of the year was, you know, the superintendent's letter comes out every day, every Friday, 4:30. We know it's coming, and it's all the information you need. I wish I had that at my school. So we want to be able to bring that into play, and part of that involves our website. I shifted my message over with the help of Jen to be able to use the website, so that allows us to embed certain things and kind of call them out, if you will, so that people can see them. So it's, I think the communications plan is really important. The technology plan is something I believe belongs in the realm of the technology director, but it would be a district plan. We do not have a district technology plan that's required by the state. We don't have one. There was one years ago. It's just never been updated. It's always been kind of recycled through. So we want to really take the time and commit, get some focus groups together, talk about our recycling plan, talk about our reinvigoration of technology, what's our timeline, what are our rotations, things like that, so that we can, again, be transparent, but also build that into that budget process. Like we know, we can anticipate certain things will happen in year 2 or year 3 or year 4 of that plan, that right now we're kind of winging it. So we want to be able to lay that out, which is also, brings us to the next one, the capital improvement plan. So a good example of these two intertwining is the smart boards. We're looking at $750,000 in smart board repairs and replacements, not repairs, full replacements. And that was never actually laid out in a plan. We just kind of are moving things around to be able to make that happen, knowing that our technology is now 10, 11, 12 years old that's in the classroom. So, so the technology plan may not be a district level goal. Capital improvement plan, again, may or may not be a district level goal, except that I think it's going to be helpful in the conversations with the towns. And I think the towns have been asking for, you know, a more detailed capital improvement plan, which would include things, you know, Dave Franklin and I talked about today, like what does it look like long-term, including things like duration, cost, and then even financing if that becomes an issue. Like, what does that look like 3 years out or 4 years out, so that that we can work more closely with the towns. This is also a good opportunity, I think, for us to jump on to the 5-year plans that the towns are doing, to be able to say, here is some information. We're 60% of the budget. Here's some information that will be helpful in the long-term planning. Hamilton does it one way, Wenham does it a different way. We want to try to now see how we can get the 3 entities communicating the same way, so that there are no surprises. I mean, other than something blowing out on you that you don't expect, there's no surprises on the known things. Like, we know we need a high school roof. We know we need windows at the middle school. What does that look like over time? How much will that cost? How much does it cost when you drag it out for 4 years, 5 years? Can we get money from the state? Is there reimbursement? So those types of things can be built into this more robust plan than we use now. Right now we have a spreadsheet. We list all the approximate costs based on estimates, and then each year we don't hit it, we move forward whatever we don't get to the next year. No real plan. So I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. And then integrating the Portrait of the Graduate, that work is now ready to be used in conjunction with the strategic plan, to be able to meld that now into the work that we do instructionally, in the curriculum, in our delivery, in the presentation about the committee's work, the presentation about the district's work, all the things that we do on day to day. We want to be able to now connect some dots for people to say, okay, you have this vision, this mission, these core beliefs, and then you have this Portrait of the Graduate. So what we want to do is to be able to help people to understand how that all flows really to the Portrait of the Graduate, because it's, the ultimate idea is the transfer of those skills for kids beyond high school, whatever they choose to do. So the kind of the vision is what that looks like, the mission is how we're going to get there, and then the core values are the steps that we lean on, the foundational pieces that we lean on to continue to move forward. So I think that in some way, shape, or form should be district level goal. But I just wanted to see where people were on these 6, or are we way off base and something's missing. I have included in your packet the strategic plan if you want to reference some of those. Whoever sent me back their doc filled out. I took information from there and squeezed it with the leadership team's information, and this is kind of where we're leaning right now. Ultimately, we'd like to have, as we have in the past, 4 goals. The idea is to not have this initiative strain that we've had in the past few years. We've been able to calm that down a little bit and really have teachers focused on a couple of areas instead of 17. The MTSS has been a real strong area for us, and we'll continue to do that. And then each building really builds their own school improvement plan, so they'll have their sets of goals that will connect to some of these, but also drive what happens at the school level. And some of those are outlined in the strategic plan, so they're specific to school level, and then others are really specific to district level.
I think, first of all, Wenham is running on a 10-year strategic plan.
Okay.
And I think just because of the lead time to do any serious construction, the capital plan needs to go out that far, together with some ideas about how to finance it. And that you can't do unilaterally. That's got to be really done in a rolling discussion and negotiation with the towns, but it helps them to shape the rest of their plan in terms of how either raising taxes or getting more sources of taxes, and the commercial versus non-commercial, the multi-tenant residents. There's a whole mix that they're playing with now, but they don't know what the biggest chunk of their budget needs to be to have the schools they want to have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not to say that anything different here, other than that.
Yes.
Some effort at interacting with the towns on the financing side of it, together with Vinnie and so forth, because it's.
And this is, just so people are aware of what we plan to do, this is kind of a discussion that's open. I had it with the leadership team this morning. good discussion. They already started thinking through, like, okay, what does this look like as a deliverable? So basically what we'll do is, in August, the 5th, when we all meet for our workshop, we'll do some of that work on that day, and then on the 8th and the 9th, we'll wrap it up with the leadership team and be ready on the 17th, I think it's the 17th, the first meeting of the next school year, to be able to say, here are our goals, and here are the deliverables, here's how we know we met them. So that's the plan from this point on.
The one other item that I think is missing is development of an EPA-like indoor air quality plan. That doesn't mean you actually have to do anything yet, but in the absence of any plan, we will never get anything done.
Is that part of the capital
Yeah, I was
improvement
going to
plan?
say, it seems like that
Would that be a piece of
a
capital
part.
improvement?
It's part of the capital improvement plan, but there's a lot to do with indoor air quality that doesn't require capital. It requires doing things. And the EPA has got a complete template for schools that I think if we follow that, it includes how you communicate it. I mean, I can send you a link to the whole
Well, would it
template.
be in the technology plan?
Not the way they've interpreted technology, because it has all of those facets to it potentially, but it's a complete program which involves a whole bunch of inspection things, and you know it's got many parameters to it, and it would be clearly in the management structure here would be the facilities leader that would own its creation, possibly without some outside consulting. But you know, if we never budget to even do the planning, we'll never do it, and we'll have the consequences of not having optimal indoor air quality, which affects our academic results as well as other illnesses as well.
I certainly don't know, but I feel like that conversation, if we were to choose or to make the capital improvement plan one of the goals, it feels to me like that conversation, I hear what you're saying, that not everything costs money. I hear that, but and I don't know whether other people, it feels to me like that would fall under the capital improvement plan conversation. And I understand what you're saying, I do.
It does in part, but
But-
there's a whole bunch of other behaviors that are outside capital.
It also already falls under our district facilities roadmap. So that's part of that plan that is still functioning. Like, that's still a separate set that Tom and the maintenance crew are managing, kind of to the right of this, with the schools over here on the left side. So they're kind of working in tandem.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask a question just for
Yeah.
about tonight? Like, what do we need? What do you want to walk away with tonight?
I just want to see if we're in the right direction.
Okay.
We're off
Feedback.
base. I think
And adding new
Yes.
things.
feedback. I'm going
Okay.
to go back to
Okay.
the leadership team.
So we're-
I have a
we're
meeting
doing
with
the
them
right thing,
Monday
good.
again. We're going to go back to the leadership team and have another discussion, prioritize some of this discussion and some of the stuff they gave me today, just to try and hone in on. Ultimately, we'd like to have probably 4 goals that represent the district's direction for next year.
Francesca?
So I had, so regarding point 1 and 2, I am in agreement with that. I think there should be goals, main goals, personally. That's my opinion. Regarding number 3, I think you raised a question to us about whether that should be sent to the DIEB committee, or it should be a matter to discuss the main goal that we discussed here. In my opinion, it should be somehow reported here. I think it's a very important goal, and particularly if you consider diversity and inclusion for kids with neurodiversity or depression, anxiety, you include the wellness, group. So I think there's a lot to kind of work on that. I think to kind of streamline it, and I think that's a goal I'm excited about. So that's my personal feedback about that. I don't know what the rest of the community feels,
So you
whether
think
it should be
say
kind of.
district level?
I think so. That's, I don't know what
Yeah,
other
that's
colleagues
what, yeah, okay.
feel, but
Oh, you can say what
personally,
you
I think
feel.
that's,
I think
yeah,
I-
okay.
We don't all have to agree.
I think it's a, we
why
don't,
we
I think
vote.
that's, I think that we don't have to, I don't think we have to have agreement here. I think we just have to provide feedback.
discuss
I think
it.
that's-
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
I happen to agree with you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We don't have to all agree.
So, well, on the other hand, number 4, and I was just going to go through the list and
Yeah,
then I
go
don't
ahead.
know, per mind. But the technology plan, I don't know, I just see that more of like a technical thing, that if we have a director that does it,
Yep.
that could be something on his plate,
Yep.
but I'd like to hear about it. I don't know how that would work.
It would, ultimately, the final plan would come back here.
Okay,
And I'm not sure if it has to be approved by the school committee. I have to actually look. But the state would require us to submit it to the state. So before that would happen, we would bring it here. Alan and his team would make a presentation, just as we've done with any other major goal like that.
okay.
Because that's such a specific department, do you think that including that goal beyond the 4 would add to the initiative fatigue, or is that something that we can consider a little bit different from?
The technology plan is really something that Alan would manage. It would really be like, okay, Alan's gonna drive the ball. Alan's going to put together some committees at each level,
Okay.
focus groups, have those discussions. He's actually gonna look up some of the tech plans that are out there to get some guidance on we use like a 7-year rotation on our useful life, but in some cases that's not, it's too long.
Yeah.
So he needs to try to hone in on some of the realities, like we just replaced all of our wireless access points across the district. Okay, so now what does that look like in 4 years or 5 years? Do we need to do it again? What is that gonna cost? So those types of things are really in his realm, where he would come back to different groups for feedback.
Okay.
And then the final would be brought here. And I just don't remember, I'm sorry, I don't remember if it has to be voted by the school committee, but we would bring it here first anyway. I think it's important to, again, be transparent.
Okay. And why is that separate from the capital improvement plan?
It would actually intertwine in some
Okay.
ways, because some of the major capital improvements that, we're looking at, the first thing we're gonna do is set a line, kind of set up a bar, like what does a capital improvement cost, like the minimum cost to be called a capital improvement. State laws are $50,000 to $100,000, but we feel like we should be able to go higher, because there are some things we can just build into our budget. So we want to look at that, what that looks like across the spectrum of everything we do: maintenance, technology, wellness, all of those things that are happening. And I think the reality is, we still have 2 big projects kind of looming that we already have kind of stuck in the forefront of what's going on. So we also have to wend our way through that without overtaxing the communities for things. We want to rebuild our science labs and do this. When does that come? What does that look like, and what does it cost to put off? Is other alternatives? I think those are really things that we really responsibly need to look at. So I think they're going to intertwine. Just cost-wise, I think some of the cost, the best example is the smart boards. Over 3 years, it's $750,000 of expense for smart board replacement across the district.
Yeah. So,
And then 5 or 7, like what's the next useful lifespan for those that we plan for? So it's they really kind of go in tandem. They'll intertwine.
thank you.
And even equipment, like go into our kitchens. People forget we run the biggest food service program in the towns. We're feeding kids, thousands of kids a day. We're looking at opportunities for breakdown of high-end equipment. We're paying $50,000 and $80,000 for just a dishwasher. I think we just paid $55,000 to replace the one at the high school. Those things all should be in this capital plan. When you start looking at duration, okay, when's the last time this convection oven was replaced? When's the last time? So really looking at the bigger picture. There's a lot of things to be braided in there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy, did you have?
No, was just thinking about number 6. Obviously, that's important because a lot of work went into that. But I'm wondering if that's something phased that could tie in with goal number 2, where like maybe for this coming school year, there's just like a poster in each classroom, but then like over the next few years, there's more plans about these specific things that we listed, like curriculum, assessments, things like that. It's just an idea.
Yeah, that was part of the conversation we had with the leadership team. Somebody said that same exact thing, with 2 and 6 kind of get melded as part of it. And I think there's more to that as well. I mean, there's the whole strategic plan, continuing to communicate that, the changes with the mission, the vision. We really need to brand those things, and part of that communication plan will include that process.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you.
Oh, I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
So number 2 will be completed by the district, but number 4 would be the technology director. I just wonder, when you say the district, does that involve all of us?
So that would be me.
Yeah.
Driving
Okay.
process over a number of months, just like we did with strategic planning, and then it would come back here for feedback.
For like ideas on how maybe us as a district can do better communication. Okay.
But the district communications plan should include communications by the school committee as well. And I think that's an area we probably
yeah.
want to start taking advantage of. Even if it's a simple, monthly, here's what happened in the January school committee meetings.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm trying to figure out a way to integrate that again through the newsletters as, like last night's school committee, here are the things that were on the top. I mean, I think there's so many people here watching, we need to, we need to really.
Our ratings are
push
way
Be
it out.
surprised. People actually do watch.
Oh, I know.
But yeah, no, I agree with that. So so now I see why that would be more of a district goal. Whereas number 4 is really just, it's almost like we don't really need to monitor that. You are, that's you. Okay,
Actually,
I get it.
Alan and I, just like Tom and I do the,
Totally.
we're always having this conversation, and then Vinny's always in the middle because
Yeah.
of the money.
I get it.
He's the guy that says no.
With number 3, I love number 3, but every other goal, you could easily see how success could be monitored. So I think the only problem I have with number 3 is how would we know success and how would it be measured?
Yep.
But I'm completely on board with 1, 2, 3. Obviously, I love number 4, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be a district goal. Love number 5. Number 6, I think I like it as a goal, but I feel it's also just part of our vision, maybe. And then also my same critique, how would we measure success? How would we know we've achieved it? So I think with any goal, just have, because all the other goals you can easily see, especially with the MTSS ones, communication plan, you could say, okay, we did this. So I think that's my only critique, but I love these, and I would incorporate all 6 of them, but I know you just want 4. So that's really just, I would pick 1, 2, 3, and 5.
Right.
That's me.
So I am going to jump in and say, I actually feel like even if you hadn't said that, I feel like we need to hold the line to just 4. Yeah. I think that's my personal opinion. I feel really strongly that,
Yes.
that because it does not mean that only those 4 things get done in the district. It just means that this is where we're putting our focus and our attention and our energy, and
it's also what we measure, we do our evaluations against, right?
Well, we'll also have superintendent goals.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah,
but yes.
I have my own.
But-
set. Lots of goals around.
True.
But yes, and certainly that's a good point, that these goals will and should inform the superintendent goals. Like if we say these are the district goals, then, so I was going to say that about, I really feel strongly like that 4 is plenty. And I think maybe both Amy and Julia kind of said to some extent, about 3 and 6, I feel like for both, they're super important, and they're kind of cultural and sort of difficult to like, what's the deliverable? And so I was actually interested I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I think I was interested when you were talking about the Portrait of a Graduate really being a part of that district communication, because I do think I love the Portrait of a Graduate, and I think so I would be interested in seeing how that could be wrapped in a concrete way into that district communication. And I guess my feedback on number 3 is, like, this is kind of what I want, is for the DEI really to eventually be woven into the fabric of everything and not be pulled out as a separate goal. And I'm not quite sure that this goal yet sort of captures something that's like a clear, I mean, maybe that's just what Julia just said, like, it's hard to
I don't think we're at that point yet where it's woven in.
And I guess what I'm saying is, I guess I'd like a goal that's pretty concrete, that's in between, and I don't know what that would be, and
So that would be part of the next steps, if you will. So we're having these discussions.
Yeah.
The part of kind of, quote, cleaning up the goals is the SMART piece.
Right.
Yeah.
How do we make them measurable?
That's
How do we
right,
make them
that's right.
attainable? So we haven't gotten to that point yet.
That's tough.
These are really just like, okay, do these make sense for a direction for the district? We've done a lot of work in the past 2 years
Oh, yeah.
that, you know, other superintendents and other committees, people that I talk to, they're like, how do you guys get this all done? Like, we're getting good work done. And I think we've put ourselves in this position now where we can fine tune the work and then still keep the work that we're doing integrated, like MTSS is going to be integrated, but that also, the spin-off of that was the literacy program. The second spin-off that will happen is the math. We're focusing on math now, but that doesn't have to be a district goal, because we're going to do the same. We already have a process. We have an understanding of how it works, and then we have different groups at each level building and growing those structures and integrating it with MTSS. So the MTSS structure gives us the ability to say, we can now monitor kids. We know where kids are having trouble. How are we intervening is the question, and how and when and where and why. So those types of things are now much easier for us and much more deliberate. There's more tier 1 instruction happening in the classroom. There's more tier 2 instruction happening in the classroom. If you go back when I first took over and read my entry plan, you know, kids were being pulled out for literally 50 minutes of their math class to go get intervention for literacy at the elementary level. So to me and to several other people, it didn't make sense, but the way now that the program is being constructed, it has alleviated some of that, pushed some of the tier 2 interventions back to the classroom, and really taken the most severe cases, and those kids are pulled out at more strategic times, rather than, yeah, sorry you missed your literacy block because you were getting math help. So we're rebuilding our schedules, like the elementary and middle school schedules will change for next year, just in the same light of what makes sense and what gives us the most flexibility for our kids to be able to do the interventions appropriately, and then keeping on track with the goal of educating our kids as best as we can.
So regarding point 3, I also want to say I agree. I think I share the sentiment that we feel it's important, but we also feel like it's a little fuzzy right now, and we probably need a little bit more structure there. And I wanted to offer maybe another thought on that, or maybe even like a goal could be to how do we structure this?
Yeah.
Like, and it could be like even just a 6 month.
Figure out how to structure
Exactly.
it.
Like, let's, you know, like how do we implement this, and then have like an execution phase.
Right, how do we implement and how do we evaluate?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the implementation evaluation, maybe that could be pushed down. But I think that the initial phase of like, how do we really structure it, that's very important that we kind of keep an eye on it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to jump in again about the capital improvement plan, and this is really just a genuine question. Like, that, it is really important, and I wonder, like, given what David mentioned about, you know, it's going to be important to have communication with the towns, and like, you've got the December 2023, like, I really don't have a good sense of like, is that an adequate amount of time, or is this a whole year goal, like, to work, you know, we've got, with the huge projects that we have before us, it's just a genuine question, you don't need to answer it right now, but just that I want to be realistic about, you know, moving forward, if we want to create a 5 to 10 year plan, is it realistic to do that by December?
Yeah, well, I think also keep in mind, go back to when we did the Portrait of a Graduate, we had to stretch it out a little bit more and then move the strategic planning process.
Yep.
there's always that, ability. We're setting a timeline within a half of a school year. We still have the second half of the school year to really get to December and say, you know what, we need to look more deeply because we're waiting for Hamilton, or Hamilton's waiting for us, or Wenham, you know what I mean? So I think that the conversation, that will be harder is to get the three entities to have a more open conversation about that, what that looks like. Because Hamilton does it one way, they have a very big drawn-out spreadsheet, and how Wenham does it very differently. We have a third model, so how can we be the driver to get everybody kind of in the same modeling structure, if you will, or do we adopt similar models so that they integrate more cleanly? So it's just really having those conversations will probably take some time as well. I'm hoping to integrate those into the budget process as we meet with the chairs and as we meet with the committees, to be able to say, okay, what should this look like? You have two FinComs with 10 competent people, basically 5 from each, and then our financial people to be able to maybe build a model that everybody agrees upon. That could be what it ends up looking like, so that it's not just, here's the school department's wish list, it's more of, we all know what's coming.
Yeah, to work, it requires an iterative process to mold it together. But the key is molding it together rather than throwing it over the fence and fighting about it.
Yeah. I guess, and again, we definitely don't need to resolve that. I just wanted to put that out there that that sounds like a big project, an important one, and I'm not sure I don't think we need to answer it. But
Yeah, believe it or not, leadership team said that, Tom said that to me today during leadership team. He's like, I'm a little worried about that goal being that at that date, only because of all the other projects. Tom's really center point for both the Cutler and the Fields project, being the director of facilities and operations. He's in the middle of both. So realistically, I'm involved in that. Vinny's involved in that. We have a new accountant coming on board that, those types of people will be involved as well. So, and there are a whole bunch of other goals that will be happening in conjunction that are not necessarily district goals. So for example, we're finalizing a employee handbook that we haven't had here ever. So our new HR director has been working along lines, going back and forth. We sent it to the union for commentary. Those types of things are ongoing behind the scenes. So there's a lot of other things going on that are outside of this, especially in the school realm. Each school has their own, connection to our goals, but they also have their own little kind of project. Okay, I'm going to do this year. So the composting at the Cutler was a goal that Juliana had brought in kind of after the fact, because she wasn't involved in the initial goal. She was hired, and then it was like, go. So she brought it in and set that as kind of the school goal, and they were able to set up the dominoes, if you will, for all the rest of us to now spread this out to the other schools. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I think people need to be aware of that. Lots of meetings.
yeah. So it sounds like we will see some of this again at our retreat in August.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll fine tune them. We'll start to begin working on. Actually, we'll begin working on some of the deliverables. What are those action steps that we're going to take to get to this goal? So to answer that question of how do we get there, what does that look like, and then what's the actual kind of deliverable at the end of the road? Okay, here it is. So then when we do our report next May, June, we can say, here's all the deliverables, here's how we hit them, similar to the report we did this year. So
Great. Exciting. That's great.
thank you for the feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next agenda item is very, very concrete, and I would ask you all, I hope,
I did read it.
Eric,
yeah.
would you, can you pull up the?
Yep.
So you have in front of you at your seat the school calendar. I'm hoping you brought with you your own personal calendar. I'm hoping you looked at it and got that email from me, and this is the proposed 2023-2024 school meeting schedule. First and foremost, I hope you all have that August 5th date already on your calendar. You should. It's going to be a fun time. And
Dana's
so,
bringing donuts.
oh, I heard I was bringing food. I didn't know it was donuts, but excellent. Yeah, there'll be something to eat there. All right, so I think, I mean, we don't need to go through it. I just want, like, you know, you could see mine. I wrote down, like, I have one date that I have a possible conflict. Yeah, like, I'm hoping that you guys all did that. Did anyone see anything did anyone identify a date that was a holiday or a problem, or you know that there's a big event that we've not taken into account, or anything like that?
December 7th, yes, what could that be? No, yeah, I'm going to be away all September.
Okay.
So I can't do 7 and 21.
Okay.
There's nothing you can do about that. And I may not be here for the October 5. That's kind of in the
Okay.
balance.
All right, and as always, and
Oh, you'll be in
I
Australia.
know that you'll always let us know so that we can be mindful in terms of
Everybody's going.
a quorum and all
Yeah,
of that.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm out of the country
Yeah.
in Australia for that.
Right. Though we'd always welcome you on Zoom at like 2 o'clock in the morning or
it
whatever.
would be
Like,
2 a.m.
Literally 2 a.m.
Actually, this, what is, you know, this is morning.
Morning.
Oh, well,
It is,
good.
14 hours is,
We'll sign you right up
So
then.
if it's desperate, if there's desperate
Have your coffee.
That was 12.
times, they do have
it's
internet down
14
there.
hours.
Just gone beyond
East
smoke
Coast
signals.
is
No.
Australia.
That's funny. I did want to just call your attention to the February 15th date, that we had a very similar date this year that, and Eric, make sure I say this correctly, but I believe that we would anticipate voting on the budget on February 8th.
Correct.
And the 15th date is if needed. In other words, if the committee were not to approve the budget on February 8th, we would need to commit to be here on the 15th, because that's the last possible day that we can approve a budget. So, so while it just says if needed, it's actually really important that you would keep that date on your calendar until we're certain that we don't need it. And we really won't know that until February 8th, whether, so.
So I just got a text, and I should know this, but December 7th is the first night of Hanukkah.
Okay, well, this is why we do this.
Tax anybody on the committee, but
That,
It doesn't
First
have
night.
it on my calendar.
I should have caught that, actually. I
Pearl Harbor
apologize.
Day too, or something like that.
December 7th, okay.
The day that shall live in infamy.
Does that
We
mean
could
someone is
do it
watching?
the
or-
6th.
First day of
Someone's
Hanukkah,
always
that's
watching.
for
So
observation by
interesting.
Jewish
Oh,
people.
wave your arms, everyone. Wave your arms.
Lights are going out. There it is.
Okay,
Why are the tiles falling
you
out
are
of the
correct. That is, in fact.
What happens in the summer?
It's, you are correct that that is, in fact, the first day of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
So, let's look.
Could we do that Wednesday?
So there's a couple of different things we could do, right? We could, if you look before that, we actually meet, do we have to meet, Eric, do we have to meet?
We don't have to meet.
Well, no, but if we don't meet I was going to suggest we could potentially meet the week before, but that would be in November, and that would mean we would not.
You could do that. You could shift it to November 30th and then just do
And then
one meeting on
December
the.
21st.
Yeah, or the 14th even.
14th is the last night of
Last night
Hanukkah.
of Hanukkah, yes.
What about just the day before, the 6th?
Or we could, but that puts us on a Wednesday, so it's just important to, like, that's an off-cycle day, so, that's what I'm open to someone randomly making a motion.
I propose, well, I propose we do it on the 6th, but I could also do November 30th, so it's up to everybody else.
December 6th?
I
We
propose
need to
December 6th
consult
at
with
7.
Vinny, because
Do I
that
need
is
to-
gonna be
oh.
during, Vinny will likely have some important,
It's okay.
Meetings.
It's okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we end up posting the Friday before anyway,
Um,
so the information's already
Yeah,
ready to go by that time.
Not November
so.
6th, December 6th.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday.
December 6th is a Wednesday.
Is that okay?
Do we need a second?
Yeah, I think
from
we
Do
the-
I, did I, do you
Yeah,
want,
why don't we
You can
move?
go ahead.
do you want me to make a motion? Is everyone in agreement with December 6th? Everyone here?
Actually, I don't think we need a motion yet, because we don't have it. We're just change it, and then in the end, we'll
Okay.
motion.
Yeah, we
it.
haven't
Okay,
approved it,
motion
so-
the
In case
calendar
anyone
with
has
that
any
change.
other, so
Okay, and
that's a
then from the 7th to
Wednesday,
the 6th, right.
December 6th. That's, okay.
Fine.
Okay, anybody else have any other dates they want to discuss?
Not in general. I mean, in terms of personal availability,
Well, I mean, I will say only
Okay.
yes, in
Like
the
the
sense that,
general
like,
big
David
thing.
just told
Okay.
us he's not going to be here for
Yeah.
the September dates. If you're not here the same dates, we should sort of talk
No.
about if,
August 17th, I'm not going to be here.
okay. And I'm not going to be here
Vacation that week.
potentially October 19th. It's more just important if we have a whole group of people that say,
Right.
oh, none of us are going to be here on October 19th, then that's a problem.
Right. Okay.
Okay, sounds like, Francesca, if you're ready, it sounds like we are ready to make a
I didn't mean to read
motion.
your text, but it was so large.
Okay.
My calendar says the 8th is the first day as well, but the
Um,
7th
so,
is the
uh,
first
so
night.
Actually,
so
it
the-
Seventh
the-
is
is
the
that
sundown.
correct? It starts at
Yeah,
sundown.
it starts at sundown.
Yes.
The calendar,
So, right.
I know, my
Judea
calendar.
calendar is very different.
That's right.
Right. I actually finally got the right calendar on my calendar, so that it
I
actually
need to
does
get the
say.
right one, because
Yeah.
It's always this sundown,
It's at sundown the night
Yep,
before.
night before.
First star, actually.
Yes.
So,
Okay,
okay.
Francesca.
So I move to approve the proposed school committee calendar with the exception of the meeting on December 7th, that should be moved to December 6th.
Second.
Second by Julia. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor? It's unanimous, and the motion passes of the 5 members present, with 5 members present. And we did it.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
No.
All right. Next up, I think Eric's going to give us a brief update on where we stand with our building and construction projects.
We are moving forward.
Excellent. That was brief.
Next item.
Yeah.
Succinct.
Projects are in two slightly different places. I'll start with the field project, smaller project. The field project committee just approved the contract with Gale to move forward, so they'll basically, so they can finish the process that they've started. So that contract was approved at the last meeting. That gives us the ability to now take the next step. We're looking to hire either an OPM or a project manager to kind of keep an eye on Gale for us. Even though we're contracting with them, they don't really answer to us other than what's in the contract. Contract is very specific about what their duties are, when their deliverables are, how many meetings they'll have with certain groups. We still have to go to the planning board for lighting. That lighting design hasn't been done yet. We were waiting for the contract with Gale. Gale will now start to reach out to the subcontractors. They will also help us with the bidding process. So that will start to kind of take shape near the end of July. And then as we roll through the fall, we'll have that bidding process going on. Then we'll have the committee select whoever the construction agent might be, any of the subcontractors that bid for whatever work is available.
In the fall, I'm sorry. Okay.
And then we believe, given the monies the 1.7 that was put aside during town meeting, and the 1.2 million that's available from the CPCs, and the $1.3 million that's available for donations, we believe that we can start without pulling the bond for the balance. So we'll start the process. We're able to quote pay our bills, if you will, as we move forward, and probably hold off on pulling the money until January of '24, maybe as late as February '24, and then, as you heard, kicking off the process as early March. Whenever the snow and the ice, whatever, allows us to get moving on it. We may do a little bit of work in the late fall once the seasons are over. Like, we have to fence in the entire property. We have to take safety precautions. They have to build access roads because you got heavy equipment coming in that's going to be there for a while. So those types of things we might be able to do in the fall once the kids are done with the fall seasons and they're not really using the field. So we're looking at that. Right, we believe we'll be right on time, if not early, to start. And then the second one, the Cutler Building project, as you know, we have PMA as our OPM, and they have been working with us for the past 4 weeks now, 3.5 weeks or something, to hire a designer. So we put out an RFP, and we are requesting proposals. I think today was the deadline, actually. Today was the deadline for designers to get in their bids for how to answer the RFP. We have a subcommittee of the building committee that has been selected to interview the designers and come up with a final choice. That final choice then, with several of us, possibly Dana, me, and others, will have to go to the MSBA. They have a board that ends up being 15 people. There's 3 from the school committee, from the school side, and then our PMA representatives will be kind of in the behind the scenes guiding us a little bit, but then there's 12 people from the state. They could shoot down our design choice if they feel like there's something inappropriate. Like they could say, this designer has 17 projects going on, they're not gonna be able to hit the marks. They could say, you know, this designer has had X flaw problems in other projects that we may not know about. So generally, the process goes smoothly because our OPM has worked with many of these designers already. And they have a very specific sheet that they tally up how they meet the criteria. As part of the RFP process, we set criteria already. So each of those firms that puts in a bid will have to meet criteria to a certain level, and that's how they get rated by our team and by PMA. So PMA will rate, our team will rate, they'll come together, look at those ratings. Those ratings with the final selection will go to the MSBA board in July. I believe it's July 26th, right?
25th.
Right in the middle of my vacation.
25th.
We'll be on with the MSBA to sit through the panel. It's a designer selection panel, they call it, and then we'll be able to move forward from there. As long as everybody's in agreement, we move forward with our designer and begin the design process, which is kind of the exciting phase, if you will. So start to see things come to light. So that's where we're at.
Cool.
Lots of things going on. Lots of committee meetings and subcommittee meetings and.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Hold that thought, because in my chair's report, I am going to ask you all about that MSBA meeting, but okay. There's no finance and operations. We have no Vinnie. Capital finance. Anybody?
Oh, they do have a meet. Capital finance is scheduled for the 29th.
Okay.
June 29th.
Policy subcommittee, I can't remember when you're meeting, but
We met
it's
last
not for a bit, I think.
No, we met.
We met last week.
Oh, you did?
We met on the 12th. We covered the wellness policy. I think we passed the wellness policy. Did we not?
The wellness policy is still in red line state. We're waiting for the actual guidelines.
Oh, that's right, the
Right.
reference document.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the,
And you'll need to, if you, the policy committee, think when it's ready, you'll bring here and you'll make a recommendation to us. So we're expecting a wellness policy at some point, is that
Yeah.
what, okay?
yeah. As soon as when do you expect the handbook to be ready now, Eric?
Probably not until September-ish, only because we don't have a food service director. We have a new food service director coming on board starting August 1st, I believe her contract begins. And then once she gets, fortunately she's worked for us in the past, so she kind of knows the ropes, but she'll take over that committee, just do a full review, and then we'll present it to the school committee, I would suspect in September, early September.
Okay.
Okay.
So then Eric was going to check with other school committees about whether they have a dues policy that we.
Oh, the student dues
yeah.
policy, okay.
July
That's-
31st.
That's left open. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 31st of July.
Okay.
On
Um,
Zoom.
And there was some extensive discussion of ADHD, and whether we should or shouldn't have a policy on that. And I think the conclusion was that Francesca was going to do some more investigation with what was the committee?
CPAC.
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 Yeah,
that's right.
So
yes.
I know that CPAC had some feedback for you as the liaison, and you brought that. I guess I would just, this is just me, I would sort of say to the policy committee that it really needs to, if you're gonna put that on your agenda, it really needs to come from the school committee to direct you to create a policy. You could certainly bring that to this meeting to ask us whether or not we want you to go ahead and do the work to create a policy. So maybe it might look something like, at some point, you bring us some information from CPAC as a,
Right.
that might,
Exactly.
and then ask this committee whether we want to task you guys with, does that make sense?
Yes, I agree. And I don't think we're at a stage that we're kind of creating a policy or anything like that. It was more kind of like a discussion on a topic that was
Okay.
raised. So it was actually a very good discussion.
Good,
Learned
and
a lot from
it might, I mean, as we've sort of added some liaison reports, it might make sense at some point to add a report for you to report back from CPAC about what you're,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
what you're learning from them. That might be helpful for this committee to get some insight into that.
Yep, I would love to
Okay.
do that. Yes.
Thank you for that. Anything else?
No, nothing else.
Negotiations? David's not here, but we're,
Ongoing.
it's ongoing. We're continuing to negotiate. We have a meeting tomorrow morning with the newly formed TA union.
Oh, I have a question. Will we have an executive session in August? August 17? After our regular meeting?
I don't know.
Okay. Just wondered.
But that is possible, yes. You mean to update? Yeah, I think that's, yes,
Well,
that's certainly a
August 17th.
possibility.
A
yes.
possibility, okay.
2 meetings that would occur between.
Yeah, we have a couple of meetings between now and then, but as you can imagine, things do sort of slow down during the summer.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I mean, and also, is that something you're requesting, that you'd like an update?
Oh,
'Cause-
not unless it's needed,
Okay.
not unless it's required, or
Okay.
not unless it's something that's needed.
Okay, all
I
right,
leave it to your discretion.
okay. All right, but no, that's a good question, that's certainly possible. Okay. Anything else? Did you want to add anything?
Nope.
Okay. Next up, I know we had requested to put this, or these 2 master plans.
I thought they'd be a little bit more ready. I now have a date more certain that we'll have the draft of the vision and goals by the 30th of this month.
Okay,
Oh,
great,
that's great.
So then we can consider how they fit with ours,
great.
hopefully.
So I'm going to give an update on the Hamilton Master Plan, but before I do, I want to actually give a shout out to David. I want to say the Hamilton Master Plan has been to be frank, it's been a little bit of an up and down process. We've had some challenges, we've had to regroup. It's been going on for a bit, and we've got a new consultant, and we're, really got some good, and I have to say that I'm appreciative of David continuing to push me to do this, because the reality is, when I sat down and looked at the work that we've done, we really have achieved a lot, and I appreciate you. I know it helped me. And I said to Eric, I said, probably helped the Hamilton Master Planning Committee, because I certainly am ready to approach it with a sort of a better understanding. So that being said, I promise it's not a real slideshow, but I'm going to show you a couple of slides about some of the Hamilton master planning. Give it a shot. Again, I am not going to show you all the slides. This is not my slideshow. This is, in February, with the consultants, which is Judy Barrett Consulting, they put together our second community meeting, and this was a virtual community meeting, and I'm going to show you just a couple of the slides from that meeting, but in hopes that it'll give you a little bit of an idea of some of the work. These are the committee members that have been participating in the planning, all from Hamilton. And so, you know, an important thing to note is what is a master plan, and what we have done is, thus far, what we've achieved is the existing conditions, which is really where we are now on a whole number of topics. And as you can imagine, that's a lot of work to create sort of clarity around where we are now. And I'll show you in a second all the different, you know, areas. But the idea is that what we're kind of coming to next are visions and goals, and it is an idea of where we want to be. It says 15 years here. That's pretty far out. We're talking about 10 years or maybe 15. But the idea is to create a framework for future decision makers when an opportunity or a challenge comes before our community, that there's a framework in place. It's not spelled out exactly every single thing that needs to be done, but it gives a framework for those future decision makers. The Hamilton Master Planning has decided to sort of use this sort of, I guess I can use the word framework again, but of protect, provide, and grow. And we've thought about all these various different elements. You know, you can see them there: community services, land use, natural resources, transportation, all of those. What do we want to protect? What do we want to provide? And what do we want to grow for our community? Again, it has been, to be honest, it's been a little bit of an up and down process. We had a really productive 2021 community meeting, and we got things started, and then we had to change consultants in midstream, and we lost some committee members, and so it's been a little bit of a process, but we have had 2 really good community meetings, one in 2021 and one this past February, where we really did get the opportunity to hear from the community, and the new consultant did some really nice small group and individual interviews to get community feedback from a wide variety of people in the community. Again, I'm going to just skip, but I am not going to show you all these slides, but I just want to show so you can see, like, we talk about land use, transportation. These are all the existing conditions. Where do people commute to? What, you know, what's the traffic patterns? Things like all of our natural resource areas. So all these chapters are in draft form, but they're, you know, ready to go. We've reviewed them. Cultural and historic resources, open space, housing, super, super interesting. All the demographic analysis and what makes Hamilton the same or different than Essex County. I certainly learned a lot about things that makes us different that I didn't necessarily know. Economic development, that chart is unemployment, so you can imagine what date that is there, that bump. Anyway, so that's a little quirk in the system there. Community, and then community facilities and services, which is, of course, where the schools fall, and they're a really important part, obviously, of the conversation. And then, like I said, the next thing we're doing are key issues, goals, and chapters. We anticipate we have about 3 more months, 2 to 3 more months, and this is kind of what we're doing, which is really a sort of a synthesizing of coming up with using all those existing conditions and all the conversations. What are the key issues that we see, and you know, what are the overarching goals? So that's
interesting. Yeah, I left out one thing. The planning group for Wenham just sent out outreach to all the major landowners to ask their opinions and inputs about land use, which should be interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah. All right. Does anybody have any questions for either of us? Okay.
You know, thank you for the update.
Yeah.
And I was, sorry,
And,
I was
and,
wondering.
and I really was genuine about, like, that really helped me to be like, yeah, we do have a lot of good stuff here,
Right.
so thank you.
Good foundational stuff. Yeah.
I was wondering if there's anything that you captured so far that has an impact on the school, kind of in terms of, for example, you know, we were thinking about the Cutler project, and that is there anything there that kind of may influence what we were thinking, or
So,
yet? Maybe they're not there yet. I don't know.
mean, yes, I can't speak for the whole committee yet because but some of the things that were interesting was, and I'm not sure I'm going to capture the actual, like, I don't want to say it wrong, but one of the things was that we as a community, Hamilton, is actually quite a bit, our households are actually quite a bit younger than many other, like almost every other community in Essex County, which was actually just really surprising, you know, and that really is attributed, or at least, you know, we can't, it's not, but the consultant, you know, looked at that as, that's a comment on the schools, that people are moving here, you know, to raise their children. So I think that was relevant. Certainly, from the key issues, or, you know, the key sort of obstacles, I mean, it certainly has been mentioned numerous times about the difficulty in, you know, the percentage of the schools, which is not uncommon to be that high a percentage for this kind of a town, residential town. But it's always a concern. How much it costs, right, is always a concern. So,
Okay, cool.
I don't know if
That's
that was helpful or not.
Yeah, very helpful.
So-
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for sharing.
all right. You're welcome. Eric, do you have a superintendent's report for us?
Brief.
Okay.
Very brief. I first want to thank the committee. This is our final meeting of this school year. Thank the committee for the work and the support along the way here, which I think we're making unbelievable progress. We've turned the district around, I think, from the perspective it was 3.5 years ago to now. We've come a long way, and it's, you know, due in part to all of the work of everybody kind of sitting here, as well as members of our communities, you know, gaining back that trust of what we do, how we do, when we do it, why we do it. So thank you to the committee. Also thank you to our staff and our faculty and our support staff and all of the people who really just, you know, go head and shoulders in to educate our kids. And, you know, it's people always say, well, you know, everybody has, teachers have summers off, and, you know, this and that are happening. But the reality is, you know, if you're a teacher, you work all day and then you go home and plan at night for the next day. You know, if you're a TA, or you're generally integrated into the community somehow, and you're doing some other activity
A lot of
related to the
teachers work
community.
over the summer.
Yeah,
So
and people
many of
work
them.
too, to make ends meet. So I think, just want to be sure that we thank our teachers and
Thank you,
all of our
teachers.
support staff, and then thank our families for trusting us and with their children. And I think we're making great strides, and I think the forward momentum that this committee has, myself starting kind of my next contract in a few weeks, really being able to take this and run with it, and, you know, lay the foundation for strengthening our school district, while also strengthening our ability to kind of glue the committees, the communities together. You know, it takes a village. It's everybody working towards the same ends, and I appreciate that. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to our staff, faculty, family members, and our kids for showing up every day and giving it all they have too. So, thank you.
Thank you, Eric, for all that you've done this year. It was a good year, I think.
Yeah, no.
Oh, I just want to ask Eric, do you have a clone? Because I do not know how you went to all of the different events. Anytime I was at any event at any school, you were there, and I just didn't know how you managed to do it. So, so great job.
I've gotten better. I'm getting better at how long I stay at certain events, just because there's so many, you know, as we saw throughout the year. You know, you're at one CPA meeting, you got to go to another one in the other town, and then come here.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of movement. I move around a lot.
Well, fantastic job.
Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Here.
I have my chair's report. I really just have a couple of really practical things. So one is I sent this to you, which was the committee, town-wide committee training, which is being offered on Wednesday, July 12th at 9 a.m. Should be really fun. I encourage you all to go if you can. And you'll see on that email that you can reply directly to, it's Michelle McGovern at the Wenham Town Hall there. So you can just, you don't need to let me know, you can just, and actually I take that back. I think you do need to let me know, because if we end up with a quorum, yes.
Post it.
So do let me know if you plan on going. But let her know as well. Should be fun. I don't think I've been to a town-wide community. Yeah. Well, I think you can go. Why not?
Who is it for select board? It's for.
I think it's all town
town
boards and
committees.
committee, and I you
And
know, and I
boards,
think,
okay.
yeah, so, I actually think, of course, there is you know, there's a training agenda on, I'm sure, how to be on a board and committee, but also it is an opportunity to meet
Right.
all
other
the
members, yeah, sure.
various people that serve in our community. It's certainly an opportunity to meet, you know, all the other people that have chosen to do this crazy thing that we've done. The second.
Support group, actually.
Exactly. The second thing I want to just, and Eric alluded to this earlier, is that on July 25th is the MSBA meeting, and it currently, it's Tom Gary, Eric, and myself that are attending that meeting, and I did get an email from Tom that I believe that this is going to be a virtual
It
meeting.
is. Verified it today.
It's going to be virtual, and it's going to be in the morning on the 25th. The reason I am telling you all this is that I have jury duty the day before. So, if I were to be put on a jury, the MSBA actually needs us to tell them which one of you is the alternate, because we need to have, I mean, it seemed very clear that we really need a school committee member to be there.
Yes.
And to speak, apparently,
to.
but we will, that part, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But
Our OPM will kind of set us up, like here are the things you want to make sure you talk about. So Tom and I will manage
Yeah.
quite a bit of it, but I'll be doing it from probably a beach chair. No, I won't do that, but I am on
So,
vacation.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's
We
8:30, it starts at 8:30 in the morning, I believe.
But we'll get a time. They do them.
In a row.
They do like six in a row.
Yeah.
So we'll get a time. They could say to us, all right, everybody from Hamilton Wenham be on at 10:30, and it takes roughly an hour to two, depending on the questions the committee has.
I will say, hold on,
Because
I do have
I'm only
another-
free until 11:30.
hold on,
I have a webinar
I have another email here I'm reading quickly that says, there will be 2 designer selection panels. The first, yeah, I don't think we have confirmed the time yet.
Not yet.
Okay, but what I really need here is, because I think we need to tell Tom tomorrow.
This will
So
be
I need
Zoom.
somebody who's willing to be the alternate in the case that, and I literally won't know until,
We're in
the day
Rhode
before.
Island at that time. Doesn't mean it couldn't, you know.
right, it is
It's on Zoom.
it's a virtual
Okay.
meeting,
wanna
and
be the
again,
alternate?
it would be only in the event that I'm not able to, because I
I'm
get
here,
put on a jury.
I'm around, but I'm only available till 11:30 that day.
Okay,
So if you
I'm
can't guarantee,
right,
then I have to
Yeah.
get off at
Okay.
11:30.
I'm available that day.
you're
so if you
available
need
that day.
someone,
You're
I'm
available,
around.
and you're not
Yeah.
you're not in Rhode
I'm
Island.
not on vacation on
And you're
that.
not on vacation.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be here there.
Vacation.
August 17th week.
I am at swim team until 9 a.m., but after that, I am available.
I'm going to just go out on a limb and say it sounds like Francesca is saying she's actually
Francesca.
free.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have big, dates set in stone, so I'm available. Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, we can vote on it. I just want to make sure you, like, put it on your calendar and,
And then we'll let you know when the,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I should kind of take the whole morning. It's gonna be the morning, right?
yeah, morning, I
we
think.
believe it's
Yeah.
going to be in the morning. It's just the
I'll
time.
take the whole day,
The
just in
actual
case,
time has
just
to
to
be
make
set.
sure. I'll protect
of
the whole
them.
day. Okay.
I know, and I was like,
It's like, just save the entire morning, it's fine.
right, just save the entire morning. And again,
They just don't know who's going to
That's true.
actually meet the goal of being there. We
Oh, right.
we have, as of today, we're on track, but not all school districts are on track.
Good point.
So they give you a deadline, and if we have till the 26th. We finished everything late last night, early today. Other communities might not, so they might not be invited, so that changes how many are there, who's going to meet what time. So they wait to hit this deadline, and then they'll set all the times.
Yeah, okay. So I'll keep you in the loop. And again, in other words, probably it'll be fine. Usually jury duty, you don't get put on a jury, but I was like, well, it's the day before, so.
Be that time.
Right, exactly. And I actually have been on, so, I don't know, maybe I have,
Yeah, you never know.
yeah, you don't know. Okay, thank you very much, Francesca. And I think that is all I have.
Do we need to vote on that?
Oh,
I don't think so.
You had said maybe, but I don't.
yeah, I don't think we do.
I don't think we do.
Yeah, I don't.
I just don't know.
I'm good without it, unless you want to vote.
I'm okay, I just gave my availability.
Okay, so this is our last meeting of the year. Our next meeting will be, our workshop is on August 5th.
Yep.
Does anyone have any topics for future meetings? Which are, again, a while from now?
Just so you know, August 5th is going to be at the high school library,
Okay.
because by that time it'll be 90, and that's the AC place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. I think we may have
Need a
done it.
motion?
Anything else?
I move to adjourn the, oh, did you want to move to adjourn? I move to adjourn the school committee meeting at 9:10 p.m. If I can look
All
at the
right,
time.
and seconded by David, who was
Hey,
disappointed
great
not to get it in.
I was waiting for him.
No, great job.
All right, good work, everybody. All right.
I'm really disappointed. I wanted to see if we could get
I
all
know,
the lights to
I'm
turn
trying
off.
The lights are going